Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Bruni, and joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. Colin, today we have Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana, freshman guard, 6'4", 20 years old. An interesting prospect. I feel like I've seen him kind of moved around a little bit on mock drafts. He's the type that when people go up, he drops, but then he can rise himself. I don't know how to describe it, but what do you think of Jalen Hood-Schifino?
I think two things are great with him. He is an elite in between game. I
Yeah.
think his in between game is probably one of the best in the class, if not. Trying to think off the top of my head, outside of the top
Scoot.
four. Scoot, yeah, there you go. Yeah, outside of Scoot, he might have the second best in between game. And then his defense. I think his defense is really, really good as well. Wingspan obviously makes up for his height, 6'10" wingspan. He's only 6'4".
Yeah.
But I think with that coupled with his size, he's 220 basically. 217 is what I have written down. Those two things are instantly in my head. Yeah, he can play in the NBA.
Yeah. So stats: 13.5 points per game, 4 boards, basically 4 assists. 42% from the field, 33% from three, 77.6% from the line. The mid-range pull-up. When you watch any of his games, if you watch his highlights, it's the first thing that jumps out. He's very, very. The offense for Indiana last year was very much Trace Jackson Davis go screen, Jalen Hood-Schifino come off the ball screen and either throw the lob to Trace Jackson Davis or pull up for the mid range.
Yeah.
That was like half of the offense. And it worked enough to where I'm really high on Jalen Hood-Schifino. And separately, I'm really high on Trace Jackson Davis. Like, we're not doing a Trace Jackson Davis video. I wanted to do one, but then I was like, no, Matthew, let's be responsible. He's probably going in the early second round. I love Trace Jackson Davis. There's a shout out for him. I'm going to have him like mid 20s on my board,
Oh
maybe low
wow.
20s, like mid to low 20s on my board. Regardless, Jalen Hood-Schifino comes off of every screen, threw infinite amount of lobs, created 9.4 points per game out of the pick and roll, was able to score off of it with the floaters, with the mid-range pull-ups. We'll have to see the three-point shot, and obviously it's getting into questions a little early here, but the three-point shot where he's able to come off the screen, he's going to have to hit that shot.
Yeah.
When they go under it, he's going to have to hit that. Like, the mid-range can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Like, you're not Chris Paul out here. You're going to have to step back and hit that three-point shot. So that's going to be the interesting thing for me. But obviously, he's just so comfortable in the ball screens. He's able to, like, the passing, I want to also acknowledge as being a clear strength. I think he's a very good passer. Now, the turnover rate is a bit high, but I think a lot of that might be more of his handle more so than his vision. I think he has
Right.
really good vision in the half court, and so I'm excited for that. The finishing I think is a strength as well. Floater, you mentioned it. So those are the clear strengths for me. And defensively, you mentioned it. It's a smart defender, really, really quick feet, good hands, good length, doesn't overextend. So I'm very, very high on Jalen Hood-Schifino.
You just went crazy. I was going to add things, but you added everything. So
I know.
let's.
Sorry, I
No,
read
it's
off my
okay.
list. I got really excited.
You. I saw you. Their heart rate elevated. Let's get to the weaknesses then. You already mentioned it. Shooting consistency. Obviously, his midi is really good. He needs to be able to hit the three ball. If he's not going to have the ball in his hands, like I don't think he will in the NBA as much. I think, like you already mentioned, if guys go into screens, he has to hit that shot. He doesn't
I
have
almost
to.
feel worse about him as a catch and shoot shooter than off the bounce.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I
You
feel like
have
he
his catch
has.
and shoot number?
Yeah, it's 31.3%.
Yeah.
I feel
But
like I feel like a player like him, just from watching him, needs the ball in his hands to get going in a game. And with my comps, you'll see. I think that is his ideal point. Obviously, I don't think he can be, because in college he had what? I don't have his usage percentage.
I
It
don't
was
know
high.
either. It was very high. Very
It was
high.
high.
Very high.
I don't think it's going to reach that at all in the NBA. But I don't think he can be a off ball guy full time in the NBA.
Well, the thing with his shot, he's gonna have to clean it up.
Yeah.
Like, just from a release standpoint, it's it's a long dip. It's like kind of like a long little process for him where he takes the ball and moves it a little bit too much for my liking. It's like the dip here, shot. And as a result, he had some pretty bad misses with left to right, shorts. Like, he has a little bit of a drift in his shot, a little bit of a fade. Not not all the time, but sometimes he can fade off his shot, which I personally that's a big pet peeve of mine. Whenever I coach high school kids, I
Mm.
really just try not to get them to fade as much. So that always concerns me from a balance perspective. 19.4% turnover rate is kind of high, but he had the ball in his hand a ton, so I'm not overly worried about that. And then the last thing I've written down for question is he's not a super vertical athlete. He's gonna have to win with his brain, with his touch, with his feel for the game. He's not gonna be able to go on and boom on people, I don't think. So that'll be interesting.
Who's your comps?
All right, I have three, and I feel pretty good about all three of them. Now, before this, you said you have good comps, so you let me know
Yeah.
if they're good or not.
Okay.
I got three: Jalen Brunson, Reggie
Interesting.
Jackson,
Reggie Jackson.
Dennis Schroeder.
Let's think
I'm
about these real
I'm
quick.
kind of liking the Dennis Schroeder one because the defense side of the ball, and Dennis Schroeder's got some touch and can operate in picking ball screens. I kind of like the Dennis Schroeder one most. Reggie Jackson's pretty good. Jalen Brunson, maybe from a body standpoint of him being. I know Brunson's shorter, but
I think I like Reggie Jackson's the best in terms of shot making.
okay.
It's
I feel
interesting.
like
It's
I'm
like a
getting close.
hybrid between the two. I have written down DeJounte Murray and Emmanuel quickly.
Ooh, interesting.
I think DeJounte Murray is his ideal archetype and what he needs, if what he
I
can
like
become as
that.
a player. Because I have a ceiling as borderline all star, high level starter. Floor is like a spark plug type guy, but I think he is good enough with the ball in his hands to where he can be a secondary main ball handler. Because you obviously have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I think he can play point guard. I don't think he can have the high usage that he had at Indiana, but I think he can't play off ball. I think he's going to be a really good secondary ball handler.
Okay, I have because I went back and I remembered I compared Anthony Black's potential to Dejounte Murray, and
Mhm.
obviously Anthony Black doesn't shoot the ball as well as Jalen does. But how high do you have Jalen? Like in theory, do you have so for on my board I have Jalen at 15, and I feel like that's very high. Like I don't know. I think most. Let me scroll around here. I feel like most have him at 20 or 19, 18 range.
Yeah.
Do you think he's worth a lottery pick?
See, I have Anthony Black kind of high. I mean, not higher than other people. I have him at 13.
That's kind of low for Anthony Black.
I know. Or
Oh,
I meant not
okay.
as low as other people. Sorry, that's what I meant. Like high in terms of one being high. Not as low
Oh,
as
you have
opposed
him
to
not as high as other people. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, I misheard
Like
you.
I'm not high on him as much.
Yeah.
So I have him 13th.
Interesting.
Man, but Jalen. Now that I'm like comparing the two players,
Jalen or
like
Anthony Black, Colin? Which one? Who
who
are you
would I
taking?
rather take?
That's interesting.
I'm gonna have recency bias now because I haven't watched Anthony Black in a couple days.
Go
I
ahead,
gotta
say it.
go.
Say it.
I had to go Jalen. I see. We talked about this with Anthony Black, and this is an Anthony Black video. I have him look more like a Josh Giddey than I do a DeJounte Murray, whereas I think Jalen makes more of an impact.
Interesting. All right, Jalen Hood-Schifino or Kobe Buffkin.
I'm really high on Kobe Buffkin. You can't take this from me. I like Kobe
Okay.
Buffkin better.
Okay. All right. I won't continue. But that's all right. That's a good scale. So we know where your head's at here. Anything else on Jalen?
I think that's it from me. Where do you have his ceiling at?
I actually think if we're just talking in general, I think he's actually a pretty safe pick.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't like I don't think his ceiling is super high. Obviously, like maybe Jalen Brunson as like a high, like if we're talking like the high end
right.
of his ceiling. But I think his floor is pretty reasonable. Like I said, I think Dennis Schroeder is a pretty reasonable type of player for him.
Yeah,
That can defend, is smart, can kind of shoot, but can play off of a guy, off of great players around him. Like I think Dennis Schroeder is a pretty safe outcome here. So I think I would be pretty happy with taking Dennis Schroeder as a floor in the top 15. of this draft, in the 14 to 16 range. I'd be pretty good with that.
I agree with that.
All right. That's all we have for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think of Jalen Hood-Schifino down below, where you think he should be drafted, all that good stuff. Leave us a like, comment, share, and subscribe on the videos. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back talking about another prospect soon.